Welcome to Blockchain Recorded, the podcast for the tech curious, where we talk about anything and everything related to the exponentially evolving crypto blockchain and Web 3.0 space. Blockchain Recorded's mission is simple: to share knowledge and insight and help evolve education in blockchain fundamentals and decentralization solutions. We at Blockchain Recorded are not registered investment advisors and do not deal with financial or trading token elements nor offer any licensed financial services. The content of this podcast is provided for informational and educational purposes only, while the opinions of all parties involved are their own. I'm your host, Nina Cerar. I have a finance background, having worked on Wall Street and the pharmaceutical industry. After living in 5 countries and dedicating time to my family, I left the corporate world. Today, I work as a freelance consultant and am fascinated by the innovative space of crypto and blockchain, different ways of thinking, and the people that are making that happen. So, let's talk blockchain. Before we begin, let me say a few words about our sponsor. This episode's sponsor is 4thTech, which is short for Fourth Pillar Technologies. 4thTech is a next-gen multi-blockchain ecosystem, platform, cryptocurrency, and a suite of decentralized applications that enable users to exchange metadata, data files, and instant messages from wallet to wallet in a secure and decentralized way. The 4thTech Charter aims to establish a foundation for decentralized digital identity, multi-chain data exchange, digital data notarization, and decentralization of cloud storage. The 4thTech initiative strives to enable a self-sovereign framework of data authorization and ownership representation and leverages the power of blockchain to facilitate data source and time confirmation. Established back in 2017, the initiative is composed of individuals and companies that collaborate to create decentralized solutions for the benefit of everyone. Its 2 main innovations are 4DX, that can be described as the blockchain WeTransfer alternative, where the protocol leverages trust sourced from the blockchain and provides a secure, immutable wallet A to wallet B data file exchange, and 4IM, which uses Solana blockchain to serve as an immutable ledger exchanging encrypted short instant messages from wallet address A to wallet address B, theoretically in real time. So now let us continue with the podcast. Today, I'm speaking with Denis Jazbec. Denis is the CTO at 4thTech, a veteran blockchain developer and a Kawasaki Ninja rider. Yes, you heard correctly. We will talk about blockchain, data privacy, data decentralization, decentralized data cloud storage solutions, and Denis's views as a developer. Hi, Denis, and welcome to Blockchain Recorded.
Hi, Nina.
Denis, tell us about yourself and how your path has led you to where you are today.
My name is Denis Jazbec, and I'm an engineer in computer science and information technology. I would say that my path started at age 14 when I built my first website with the help of online tutorials. I went to high school for computer science, where I got my first basic programming knowledge, and later on graduated from Computer Science College in Slovenia. At that time, I worked in a company where we made online stores on a Magento platform, and after 2.5 years, I left that company and went on my own. After a year, I got the opportunity to join the 4thTech team as a CTO, where I'm still today.
Great. And how long have you been with 4thTech?
I met the team back in 2017. There were talks about how to exchange sensitive documents over the blockchain and what needed to be built to achieve that. After months of concept development, the beta work started, and I have been working on 4thTech solutions ever since.
Oh, interesting. So you've been part of the story since the ICO era, which brings me to the next question. So what motivates you, and how do you like to be challenged?
I admit that at first, my only motivation was money. But then I realized that money, of course, is not everything.
Of course, yeah.
You have to be happy doing the work you do. Mm-hmm. I experienced that firsthand. When I'm learning and discovering new things, time flies by really quickly. But when I do some work repeatedly over and over again, things starts to become boring. Mm-hmm. I like to do non-repetitive programming work, and I want to work with technologies that have a future. Also, it gives me additional motivation when I have to learn new and exciting things. Overall, that was also the reason why I joined the 4thTech team.
Sure, sure. So you're a software engineer, and I've always been curious what goes on in a developer's mind. What does your day look like?
It's like a roller coaster. Sometimes it's boring, sometimes exciting, sometimes stressful. Sometimes I work days, sometimes night. I work mostly at night because I'm a lot more productive. Sometimes I push myself too hard. For example, this year in April, there was a deadline for the Edgeware integration, and we had some unexpected problems. So I worked 43 hours straight, and it was very stressful at that time.
Wow.
I don't recommend working that much because it's not healthy.
No.
So I guess you can call that a programming marathon. It was certainly a record for me.
It sounds like it. That sounds pretty intense. And even more intense, I heard that you ride fast motorbikes. Is that true? And if so, why?
Yes, it's true. I ride a Kawasaki Ninja ZX-10R SE. It has a 1000cc engine with 200 horsepower. I always wanted to have a sports motorbike. It has been my dream since childhood. I also have a hard enduro KTM, which is not fast, but I also enjoy it. You know, motorbikes are a perfect way to free my mind because when I'm on a motorbike, there is only me, my motorbike, and focus on the road. There is no stress. When I have too much pressure or other problems, I go on a motorbike for a couple of hours, and when I come back, I'm completely rejuvenated.
So would you say you're hooked on adrenaline?
I guess so. I like adrenaline sports. A year before I bought my Ninja, I started a skydiving course. But then the following year, when I had to continue, I bought a motorbike, which brought me more pleasure. But maybe one day when I will have more time, I will continue with skydiving.
Sure. Interesting. I'm actually still trying to connect your affinity to adrenaline sports with blockchain. So let's talk about that. So how do you see blockchain technology today, as of today?
For certain things, I think blockchain technology is a key evolution technology. If you use it in the right way. But in some areas, I don't think it's necessary because blockchain technology is not a solution to all of our problems.
Okay, so what areas would you say you don't need blockchain?
For example, if you want to store confidential information, we know that every recorded transaction is visible to everyone and is permanently recorded on a blockchain. Also, if you need some data to be updated rapidly or you need high-speed performance, we know that before a transaction is recorded on a blockchain, it goes through a consensus mechanism that takes some time, from seconds to hours, and depends on the blockchain. In some cases, you deal with data that needs to be updated in milliseconds. But overall, if you don't need decentralization or you are a single authority who stores data, then I don't see valuable to use blockchain. We also have to consider a network cost when we store data on a blockchain. It depends from case to case when it's relevant to use blockchain benefits.
So what do you think are blockchain's main benefits?
The main benefits of blockchain are that you have enhanced security, so that when a transaction is recorded on a blockchain, it's linked to a previous transaction. So to change a single transaction record, we would have to change all subsequent records on a blockchain. Also, there you have a greater transparency and traceability.
Sure. So to what extent or where do you think these benefits are achieved across industries today, for example?
I see that financial transactions, supply chain information, data sharing, digital voting, the Internet of Things, and many more already use those benefits successfully.
Right. Sure. So let's move on to the notion of decentralization. Is full decentralization achievable in 4thTech?
Yes, it's possible. It's also our goal at Fortec to have a fully decentralized solutions. It's essential because if something is decentralized, this is available even if some server is down. And the more something is decentralized, the less likely it is that it stops working.
Okay, and so what what would be necessary to achieve full decentralization? Or maybe what would be the steps that you at 4thTech need to take to achieve full decentralization?
So for us to have a fully decentralized solution, we have to move our public key repository, file storage, and user identification information to a safe and decentralized storage. In some cases, it's also crucial to have a GDPR-compliant decentralized solution, which often limits our choice. We also did some research and brainstorming on this topic, which maybe brings us to develop a new decentralized storage solution.
Okay. So decentralized cloud data storage, that brings us to this topic. What is it? What does it consist of? And most importantly, how does it work?
Decentralized cloud storage is a network consisting of multiple nodes. Ideally, the network has thousands of nodes located across the globe that are independently owned and operated. And every node in a network can store data. In other words, a node is a server, computer, or any other device that can store data. And the beauty of decentralized cloud storage is that your data is very secure. At first, your data is end-to-end encrypted, which means that your data is encrypted on a user's computer before it's uploaded on a network. The second thing is that the data is, in most cases, broken into pieces and then spread out to the network of nodes, which makes it extremely hard to steal your data. It's almost impossible. And the next thing is that even if some nodes are offline, you can still access your data.
I see. So more nodes mean stronger decentralization. You mentioned you did research on a viable decentralized cloud data solution for 4thTech. Can you talk about that a bit more?
Yes, it's true that we have been working about how to approach this issue from 2017 on, when the plan was to store the encrypted exchange users' data on IPFS. To clarify, when users exchange data using our 4DX protocol, blockchain is not used to store data files, but to record links to the metadata files and their checksums. And then metadata files containing additional info, such as attachments, their checksums, subject, description, etc. The data files are being exchanged between users or between wallets. The data files are being exchanged between users or between wallets are being temporarily stored in cloud storage. To truly decentralize our solution, IPFS would be appropriate, but we could not get it to work with GDPR. The data files, once recorded to IPFS, are immutable. What we needed was a mutable solution. And the GDPR states that data can be modified or erased where necessary.
So given this GDPR factor, does this mean you can or cannot achieve data decentralization?
Decentralization of data can be achieved, but it's hard to be compliant at the same time.
Okay.
So what we're thinking now is to offer users two choices. One is to use the cloud temporary storage, where data is mutable and can be deleted. As explained previously, the Fortec wallet-to-wallet data exchange protocol does not store any personal data on the blockchain. The data is stored off-chain. The protocol records links to encrypted files and hashes of the encrypted content on the blockchain, and the hashing of exchange data enables GDPR compliance. For example, if there were a request to delete some data, the network controller would be able to delete the requested data from off-chain storage, leaving what would then become an empty hash on-chain.
Okay, I see. And then what is the second option you mentioned?
Or to offer users a choice to select a decentralized option to temporarily or permanently store their received data. There are already 3 viable options on the market that offer data decentralization. There is the Filecoin project, SIA, and storage. Either we connect to one of the existing solutions or we develop a unique one.
I see. So what would your unique solution to decentralized storage look like if you were to opt for a unique option?
If we would develop our own, I think that we would use one of the bigger blockchain network as a security trust layer to verify the needed data between data miners, because why not use an already established decentralized blockchain rather than build one from scratch? it's usually better to use existing blockchains. The second thing that we would do is develop a light desktop client that anybody could install and participate with his or her available hard disk storage. I'm talking about small participators like you and me, not big IT companies or storage facilities.
Sure.
I'm talking about giving anybody with an internet connection and a computer a chance to participate by sharing empty storage and earn some for. Of course, there are many issues still open that we must approach.
Sure. So how does all of this sync with what you currently have as a data storage solution?
Currently, we have a completely centralized data storage solution, which is obviously not ideal. The location of this data is on one data center. This can lead to some downtime and user can't access this data. That's also a reason why we are looking forward to decentralizing as much as possible.
What's your opinion about data decentralization? Do you think it's important?
Yes, data decentralization is important, of course, because you want to have access to data no matter what. Also, no single authority controls your data, and your data is more secure on decentralized storage. As I said before, your data is encrypted and spread over the network of nodes, giving you the security that you can get on centralized solutions.
Okay, so this is in theory. To better picture this, can you maybe give us an example?
Sure. Let's say that you store some data on Google Drive, which offers cloud storage. So you upload some data that is accessible in your Google Drive. This uploaded data is unencrypted unless you encrypt it with some particular program before uploading it. So unencrypted data leads to data exposure to everyone who has access to the data center. Those are not just Google employees, but also hackers if they find a vulnerability and gain access.
Sure.
You can also lose access to your data if Google decides to block you from using their services. They can also have some services offline, and at that time, you can't access your data. There is also a lack of privacy because you can't know for what purposes they are using your data. If you're not paying for the product, then you're a product.
Right.
On decentralized cloud storage, you don't have those concerns. It's a different story.
Right. So as far as I understand, you're adding new blockchain support pretty quickly. You added substrate support this year, and you're planning to add Solana, correct?
Yes. We are also working on Solana integration right now. We plan to go live in Q4 if everything goes smoothly.
And so how does this process of adding Solana actually look like? In other words, what does it mean when you say you're adding, quote unquote, Solana?
Okay. I will try to explain as simple as possible.
Great.
To add Solana blockchain support, we must research and go through Solana documentation to get the needed information so that we will be able to complete all the necessary steps to successfully add support. The first step is to add it to the Fortec wallet. The wallet is basically used for storing private keys and signing transactions. Currently, the wallet supports Ethereum, Dollar Hashmate, and Substrate-based accounts. So Solana will be the fourth one. So to add Solana to the Fortec wallet, we must implement the following functionalities to the wallet. So first one is generating and storing a Solana key pair. The next one, we have to be able to backup and restore this key pair. And we have to be able to sign transactions data with this key pair. The next step is to develop smart contracts, which will be deployed on the Solana blockchain and will be able to store and return requested data. And the last step is to add the Solana support to the Fortec web platform. We need to develop communication between web client and smart contract deployed on the Solana blockchain and our wallet to sign transactions and get the information about wallet addresses.
So can you talk about multi-blockchain interoperability? Is this important for you as well?
Well, I think it's crucial to have support for different blockchains. So the users can choose between them depending on their needs. Also, there are some advantages from blockchain to blockchain. They mainly differentiate between speed, price of transaction, and level of decentralization. And of course, we can't know which blockchains will survive in the future. So it's good to have a choice.
Right, understood. You briefly mentioned this before, that it's better to support other systems instead of building your own blockchain from scratch. So why is that?
From a business perspective, it's wiser to use one already established blockchain than to start building your own. If you want your blockchain to succeed, you need a good level of decentralization. And for good level of decentralization, you need a big community that hosts your blockchain. Then you need to have added value against other blockchains. Otherwise, you have one more blockchain in the space. Then you have to have some developer tools, good documentation that helps developers develop on your blockchain, and an engaged community that helps build your blockchain and tools.
Sure.
So again, it's wiser to support other systems versus building your own blockchain.
Sure. That's fair. So technologically, of all existing and functioning blockchains out there, which blockchain do you prefer the most?
I started with Ethereum, so I'm pretty loyal to Ethereum. But I also like the Polkadot network, which has some excellent features over Ethereum. For example, you can create a custom blockchain quickly using the Substrate framework and then connect it to the Polkadot network, where you will get security and interoperability with other blockchains in the network from the start.
So it sounds kind of like you're an Ethereum maximalist. Can I ask you, are you an Ethereum maximalist?
Actually, I would say yes.
Okay. Well, I have to ask you then why.
Ethereum was a pioneer for smart contracts, which are usable. And that usability brings a lot of users who do a lot of transactions. And this is reflected in the slow speed and high cost of transactions, which is the most painful thing right now. I think that Ethereum 2.0 will mainly solve those problems because, as we know, Ethereum 2.0 has a proof-of-stake consensus. That means that there are no complex calculations behind it, resulting in a higher speed of transactions per second and less energy consumptions, which is also good for the environment.
Right. So you think Ethereum 2.0 will solve the gas problem eventually. What about Bitcoin? I have to ask you about Bitcoin after Ethereum.
I think that Bitcoin will mainly act as a store of value.
Okay.
But it will also be interesting to see what will bring support for smart contracts this year.
Okay, sure. So back to existing blockchains. You have a lot of experience with building and deploying on already developed blockchains. Can you explain what tools are key or have to be available to support deployment on a chosen chain, for example? Or in other words, what would be, I would say, the perfect development environment?
First, there should be a good up-to-date documentation with some examples of communicating with the blockchain. Second, for example, JavaScript library should be available that simplifies communication with the blockchain. And third, there should be support available, which can help if you struggle with some problems.
Okay. Would you say, do you support multi-blockchain app development and support, or do you think that all applications should be deployed on Ethereum due to the 10K plus nodes?
I support innovative blockchains that offer developers new ways to experiment when deploying apps. I think that we will always have different blockchains network that will each be specific in their own way and will each offer unique solutions. So yes, apps should be multi-blockchain interoperable. Just look at our case. Back in 2017, when we started to develop on Ethereum, and up until 2020, gas was not an issue.
Right.
In September 2020, our solution became unusable to small users due to the Ethereum gas increase. That's when we started to migrate to other chains. This is one example, but despite the gas increase, Ethereum did not lose its decentralization. We can also look at it from another angle. If someone would need to exchange an extremely valuable package of data files, paying $150 in gas fees is not so terrible. while protected by 10,000 Ethereum node decentralization. As new modern blockchain networks are being developed, most of them are already EVM compatible or are building EVM compatibility modules, because most apps were built on Ethereum, as it was the first contract-enabled blockchain. This standard prevailed, so building multi-blockchain interoperable apps today is not such a big issue.
So Ethereum should be used as layer 1, handling mostly layer 2 confirmations and verifications, correct?
Yes, I think this idea is very logical. If looked strictly from the developer point of view, executing all blockchain processes on an ultra-fast layer 1 would be faster due to possible bottlenecks that could occur between layers. As layer 2s are still in the experimental stage, we will have to wait to see how it will all behave.
Right, sure. And then what about sidechains?
Sidechains are another matter altogether. Layer 2s process their computation and storage while they completely depend on layer 1 for block validation and security. Sidechains are separate parallel blockchain networks with their own consensus mechanism and their own security.
So what would you choose?
If I had to choose, I would go with layer 2s. We're looking at Arbitrum Ethereum layer 2 to enable our users with Ethereum low transaction cost option. To clarify, when 4DX will be deployed on Ethereum layer 2, the users will benefit from Ethereum decentralization and network security while enjoying lower transaction costs.
Okay, so great. So let's switch the topic a little bit. What do you think about digital currency from central banks?
I think that this was their reply to cryptocurrency. But this could be a double-edged sword. It's good for transaction speed, but on the other hand, if you want to replace cash with digital currency, then you don't have privacy anymore, because their systems are mainly centralized, which brings us to surveillance problems.
Yeah. It's not a secret that central banks are planning to roll out their own digital currencies. That can be viewed as an effort to centralize and control not only the global financial system, but also exercise more control over the population, right? So, but without getting into conspiracy theories, how do you think this will evolve parallel to Bitcoin and blockchain, which obviously represent the complete opposite ideology?
I think Bitcoin will continue to exist as a store of value, and blockchain technologies will continue to evolve. Bitcoin proved again and again that it cannot be shut down. The more people will use it, the more decentralized it gets. The big question is how this space will be regulated. I do think that centralized digital currencies from central banks will somehow coexist with cryptocurrencies. It's the cash that governments want to get rid of. Cash is difficult to trace. Digital currencies are not. But we will see how the game will play out.
Yeah, right. Well, regulation is inevitable. I think we all know this. And on the other hand, developers will most likely be in even more demand. What would you say to, for example, a young developer that wants to enter this space?
I would tell them not to be afraid, and I recommend that they begin with Ethereum, which has many examples and many good tools that can help a lot. They should start step by step. At first, they can begin to play around with smart contracts. They can follow some tutorials that will demonstrate how to build and test smart contracts. And then they can start upgrading their knowledge by official documentation. Later on, they can try to develop their decentralized app, communicating with deployed smart contracts. If they have some problems, try to Google it. And if they don't find a solution, they can ask the community about it.
So Google is welcome in this case, despite the fact that it's centralized?
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so we can talk about Google in that respect. I'm curious, what are the programming languages that you use?
Solidity is mainly used for smart contracts on Ethereum virtual machine.
Okay.
For developing on Substrate and Solana, there we use Rust. For client-side applications, we mainly use TypeScript or JavaScript. We also have some backend services which use PHP language, but it's also possible to use some other languages, which completely differs from project to project.
Okay, I will not pretend that I'm familiar with programming languages. I've never programmed before. The closest I've come into contact with programming is via my 10-year-old daughter last year. But that's a side point. I'm curious so many applications are getting built, right? So what blockchain application do you think should be built now?
One of the needed applications is an instant messaging app, which we're currently developing at Fortec. We are developing instant messaging on the Solana blockchain, which has a quick transaction speed. It's decentralized instant messaging with end-to-end encryption, which brings privacy and communications in the first place.
Right. So this is the 4IM, right? We actually talked about this in our last podcast with Tali and Peter. Where are you in the process right now with 4IM?
We just have to complete Solana wallet integration, which is nearly finished. And then we have to implement the communication with smart contract into the web platform.
Okay. As we wrap up our conversation, Denis, where do you see the crypto and blockchain space in 5 and then in 10 years?
That's a tough question.
Yeah, I know.
It's hard to talk about years because all those things are evolving fast. But I see more and more people getting into the crypto space. Also, there will be some new energy efficient solutions for blockchains. We will probably have vehicles and cities connected on the blockchain through the Internet of Things at some point in the future.
Yeah, right. It's not so much science fiction anymore. Autonomous vehicles are a hot topic right now in an industry of the future. I definitely root for energy efficient solutions, but adoption is another topic. And another tough question, or maybe not, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
I will probably do much less programming work and more consulting work. I also have some project ideas which I want to realize at some point. Okay. Some of them are related to IT and a few are completely opposite.
Okay.
And of course, more dedication to adrenaline sports. But I will see where my current path takes me.
So just curious, what is the opposite of IT for you?
I have some sports and nature-related ideas. But okay, at some point, they will also need some IT support to get better exposure.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I think it's almost impossible to escape IT. And surely your developing skills are certainly relevant to where the world is going. Insta everything, digitalization, et cetera, et cetera. So I think this is a good point to end our talk today. Is there anything I have not asked you that you would like to add?
If I comment on my research and development work in Fortec, I would like to point out that I'm happy that we came out of the beta stage on many project levels. Now that we are in the production stage, the development process is not so intense compared to before, when we were gasping for air all the time, facing endless coding marathons and were faced with never-ending problem-solving challenges. The main web platform client is in production, live offering wallet-to-wallet data exchange available for all, simple and efficient to use. Yes, there are still a lot of challenges to overcome, but the main solution stands. Who knows? Maybe we become the WeTransfer of the decentralized world.
WeTransfer. Now that's another expression we use as a verb today, right?
Yes. I'm also excited about our development being done regarding 4IM, which stands for the instant messaging protocol that we're building on the Solana blockchain. It's a fun project. Sending messages was always fun. In my opinion, it's another example of blockchain development in the right direction. People need to have a choice to be able to chat privately, what our on-chain messaging protocol can enable. The next step for us is data storage decentralization. We would really like to contribute here to innovate, so that our solution can really enable and stimulate data decentralization. I look forward to the next challenges.
Well, that sounds great. And I think some of the latest news is that you, 4thTech, applied for the Solana hackathon, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it's correct.
Right? Yeah. So that should be another one. Well, great. I think that's a great attitude to have. I think it's commendable that your team was able to pick itself up and reroute its programming to find solutions, given the constantly evolving dynamics of the blockchain environment. So with the skills and your flexibility and fundamentals in mind, goal in sight, and of course, a solid and ethical intent or mission, which I personally think it's super important, you're delivering and contributing to the space. So I can't help but circle back to the importance of being able to control your own or our own data. It's our fundamental right, and we should talk about it. So on that note, Denis, thank you very much.
Thanks to having me.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for listening. Thanks to our sponsor, 4thTech, who's supporting our first steps in the podcast world. And thank you to the Baryan music team for providing their music. You can check out their latest album on baryanmusic.com. That's BARYAN music.com. You can find this 4thTech talk with supporting information on our website, blockchainrecorded.com. You can also find us on Google, Apple, and Amazon podcasts, as well as Spotify, Radio Public, and Stitcher. So let us finish today's episode with the following message. Despite its challenges, decentralization is possible and important. Stay tuned for our next episode.